So when you're cruising and don't have access to a car and you have to go grocery shopping, are there any things you can have to make schlepping all those groceries back to the boat easier? Yes, I've got some ideas for you. Hi, I'm Nico Waters and welcome to the Boat Galley Podcast. Today I'm talking about bringing home the bounty, or 4 things that you might want to keep in mind when you're bringing groceries back to the boat when you're cruising. One of my passions is helping people understand about food and making it easy for them to be confident in the kitchen. I don't care if you're based on land or based on the water, there are a lot of similarities to things that you need to do to be confident. I'm talking about things like list building and grocery shopping and storing food as well as cooking it. And I've got hints and ideas for all of those things in my course called The Self-Sufficient Galley. It's available with a link in the show notes. Check it out. Last week on the podcast, I talked about provisioning barometers and the idea of making sure that you understand what the sort of things are that you never want to run out of. Anything that fits on that list is going to trigger the need to go to the grocery store. And going to the grocery store when you're cruising can be challenging. The thing is, you got to find the grocery store and you got to get there. And then you have to get all the purchases home. If you're land-based, you drive to the grocery store and you put all the stuff that you want in the back of the car and you get it home and it doesn't feel like it's any great big deal. And when you're cruising, it's a little bit more challenging, mostly because you don't have a car. And yes, if you've done a major restock with 5 or 6 bags of flour because you're about to head off to the Bahamas, or you're about to do a 4-week passage across the Pacific, yeah, you definitely will probably be either getting an Uber or a cab or renting a car. But most of the time, unless you're ordering groceries via Instacart, you're going to be carrying your groceries home, your provisions back to the boat. You're going to be carrying them by hand. And sometimes, even if you're in a place where you can order groceries via Instacart, and I don't know if Instacart is available in other countries. I know it's not even available every place in the United States. So you might be places that you don't have Instacart. But maybe there's a minimum order, or maybe you actually just like shopping in person, or maybe you've come around the corner and there's a farmer's market that you had no idea was going to be there. And you definitely have a few things that you can always add to the galley. But one of the challenges is bringing all that stuff home when you're on foot. And maybe you've got a mile to walk. So how do you minimize the schlep factor? One of the first things is, of course, totally obvious, but minimize what you're buying. Unfortunately, one of the challenging things when you're provisioning, when you're cruising, and you're carrying it all back is that it's harder, or not harder, it's more imperative to resist those impulse buys. It's harder to take advantage of deals when you have your grocery list and you know what's going to fit in the bags that you have to carry. But you definitely want to minimize what you're buying. That might mean that you have to go to the store more often. And it might mean that you need to plan the major restock of all the things all in one go. But you definitely need to plan. And when you are coastal cruising and provisioning that way, and you're walking around and carrying your groceries back, you want to minimize what you're buying. The next couple things are about how to make bringing the groceries that you do buy back to the boat a little bit easier. And the first one is to get a very good backpack for every person on board. And by very good, I don't mean expensive. It doesn't have to be expensive. You probably can find some of these, actually, at least the LL Bean backpack that I prefer. You can find a good backpack, probably even at Goodwill if that's what you're after. But what I mean by a good backpack is you want to check, first of all, that the straps are padded and comfortable. This is not the kind of place to go for a string backpack, because imagine loading 10 cans of something in that backpack and then throwing it on your back to be able to walk a mile. I think you won't be happy, not a few steps into that journey. So you want to check that your straps are padded and comfortable. If you're going to be carrying a lot of heavy things, and every now and then you might be, ideally there's probably a chest strap to help keep the bag centered. It should be sturdy, and it wants to shed water. This is probably not the time to get a nice big canvas bag that will just absorb water if it happens to rain. I like a pack that's around 40 liters in size because a lot smaller and it's hard to carry things in it at least enough things that you might want. But you don't want it a whole lot bigger because then it starts to get super heavy to carry it. I mentioned earlier the LL Bean backpack, and I love my LL Bean backpack that I've had since right after college. I think I found a sale version of it. It still looks absolutely brand new, and I've used it for a long, long time. It's light enough that I use it as an everyday bag. And that means that when I'm cruising and we're going ashore, where somebody else might just grab their Ziploc, the cruiser's wallet, and shove it in their pocket, I actually have a backpack on my back. And I can throw in a wadded up light rain jacket. I've got my wallet in there and it's always with me. So if we come across one of those aforementioned unexpected farmers markets, I've got someplace that I can carry the things that I want to buy. Jeremy has a Gecko brand dry bag backpack, and we actually just bought a dry bag cooler backpack from the same company. But again, it's got padded straps. It's comfortable to carry. There's a chest strap to keep the bag centered. It's sturdy and it sheds water. So those things are important when you're thinking about what kind of a backpack to buy to be able to help you carry things back. Another piece that you want to think about with a backpack is what can you fit in the compartment? What can you fit in the biggest compartment? If it's too skinny, it won't be useful in terms of what you can bring back. My second tip is to take a handful of reusable bags with you. Because once you've loaded the backpack with the super heavy stuff, you may actually have some more to carry. And the paper or plastic bags that you get from the store, they're not really designed to last longer than from the store to the car to your kitchen. And if you've overbought, yes, even if you have gone with a list and you've managed to resist most of the impulse buys, being able to carry whatever you buy with ease is important. So I like bags that have handles that are long enough that I can kind of go across my body, which leaves my hands free. Or I can put a couple of bags across my body and then carry a couple of bags, which means that I can carry more. Probably if I have less distance to walk, that's more important to me, but still, sometimes it happens. My current favorite reusable bags are from Flip and Tumble. One of the things that I love about them is that they scrunch down to a self-contained compact handful. You actually stuff it into itself and it comes up with this little smaller than a tennis ball, much smaller than a tennis ball size squishy bag that's just there. They also weigh next to nothing and they dry super, super fast. So they're nylon and they're strong and they don't really get dirty easily. They come in cool colors and patterns. And I do keep 5 of them in my backpack, as well as a handful of their produce bags, so I don't have to have the plastic bags that I'm using. And then the third thing that we have not yet done, but I keep looking, is to splurge on a foldable cart. Those carts, they fold down to a pretty small footprint, and they mean you can carry a lot more things than just what you can carry on your back in a backpack or those reusable bags. I'm looking forward to finding one of these and buying one of these foldable carts. I haven't bought one yet because I'm sort of holding out to see if I can find one that doesn't have any steel at all, because the steel ones will rust. But I'm pretty sure that for us, the size is going to be the biggest limiting factor on Calypso. But enough of my friends have something similar that they rave about, and it just makes reprovisioning so much easier. I will still pack my backpack full, and maybe this cart will hold my full reusable bags plus more, but being able to pull the load behind me instead of carrying it on my back all the way will be definitely a treat. The important things to look for in a foldable cart are wheel size, because a larger size wheel will allow for easier movement on uneven ground, which is probably what you're dealing with. A handle that's long enough that you don't need to crouch to pull it. and then a folded footprint that fits on board. And if you can find something with no steel, as I mentioned earlier, it won't rust. And for us, I think the dimensions will be the key part of that, as our space is small. So there's a link in the show notes to one of the ones that I'm really eyeballing and looking at, because it folds down super flat and will tuck away into a nice corner. I do love grocery shopping while cruising. I love the insight it gives me into local culture. And that local culture changes even 50 miles up and down the coast. You're going to find some different things at grocery stores that are just going to give you a tiny little glimpse into what a normal local kind of food culture is. But it can be challenging to carry it all home. Being prepared with things like a backpack and good reusable bags and a foldable cart, plus, trying to limit what you buy, being prepared makes it all easier. And though I love it, I'm also all about making things easier. I can't wait to share an anchorage with you, and we'll figure out what our favorite little spots are to go, and maybe we can help each other with a provisioning run. Thank you so much for listening to the Boat Galley podcast. If you found this enjoyable and helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends. Have the most spectacular week, and happy holidays.